Hey up everybody and welcome to this video. First thing first, I'd just like to give out a little shout out to Christopher Moody. A link will be in the description to his channel. He's a really interesting guy. He's been commenting on my videos for quite a long time now. We've had some really interesting, engaging kind of conversations about wargaming and the Cold War. And he's just started up his YouTube channel. He's also doing 28mm East Germans, and it'll be a really interesting thing to follow. I'd really appreciate it if you went over there, gave me a bit of support, and I'm sure he would really appreciate it too. Like I say, there'll be a link in the description. Check it out and give a bit of loving. So getting into my own update. Over the last 2 weeks, I've been finishing off uni. I'm now finished with my second year. I've got my essays out of the way. I can actually get back to doing the hobby again, which is really nice. One of my essays was actually about the DDR. It was about kind of political participation in the system and challenging the idea that East German society was one where everyone kind of lived in fear of a totalitarian state. There's actually methods for people to voice their concerns, and that it was a really interesting topic to look into. Obviously kind of like the East Germany is more of my focus on the Cold War than the West, so that was really interesting to look into and bring into the hobby. Anyway, getting into the actual models, what you're actually here for. I finished this East German Nationale Volksarmee BMP1, obviously a Soviet vehicle that was exported to the rest of the Warsaw Pact, the East Germans having these in massive numbers to fuel their Modschutz, which is the armoured rifle divisions. So this is the model by this is just a scale model of the East Germans. You've already seen that, or you should have done. This is the sloppy jalopy version, a really nice kit to make and paint, quite easy. Although weirdly my green is aggressively thin, so it took about 4 coats to actually get it looking somewhat nice and not patchy. Anyway, this is a really interesting vehicle. Weirdly amphibious, so it can actually like go drive through water and the like of that. Obviously to deal with the kind of terrain of Eastern Europe, a lot of the rivers and the streams, and what you need to actually get to the Rhine and invade the Rhine, as the topic, as the title says of the video. The missile is a really weird kind of little feature. It had little there's a little kind of port on the top just there, if you see, where a man would get a stick and kind of plan it on, knock the fins down to actually put it into shape, and then it would obviously fire, and it was really effective at destroying enemy tanks, and that's kind of what increased the shelf life of this vehicle for so long, up until the mid 1980s, where it started to get replaced by a more modernized model, which had a better transport capacity. It still had 8 people being in it, but one of the major complaints of this vehicle was how cramped it actually was. It wasn't really designed for 8 people, whereas the squads in the East German army tended to be 8 with 3 drivers. So they made it a bit more spacious in a way, gave it a better armament and a better turret and the likes of that. But in the period I'm playing in, the very early 80s or the late 70s, these are still very much the norm, and that's what's going to be the majority of the army. It's a very chunky boy. Just looking at it like that, it is quite thick. It's probably one of the biggest vehicles I've actually painted outside of 40k, obviously dealing with the 30s and stuff, the very British Civil War. You don't really get vehicles of this size and of this quite sleek kind of nature. It's a really interesting vehicle. Like I've said a few times now, it just is. There's something else I wanted to say about it. Yeah, this was one of the kind of pioneers in armoured transporting vehicles in the Cold War. It was regarded as one of the best out there. Obviously it got worse as it got along. It got much older, and that's one of the major problems with the Eastern armies, is they clung to old kit for such a long kind of time. Because obviously, don't fix what ain't broke is the kind of philosophy, and when you haven't got as much of a producing power as the West, you are going to stick to older things. So it did start to show its age towards the end, but during its heyday, pretty solid vehicle, and I'll be happy to get a few more. The roundel problem, that was an interesting one. I know there's decals out there or transfers for 15mm for the Team Yankee East Germans, but I'm not sure how they would scale with this, because I don't really know. I don't have a comparison. So basically, I just had to print out the roundel, glue it on, and paint around the edges. So it doesn't really have a lot of detail in it, but as you get further away, it looks better, I feel, and it gives the effect I'm after, of the impression of that. I would have loved to have painted the hammer and circle in actually on the turret, but my freehand is just nowhere near that good yet, sadly. But yeah, I think it looks all right. I'm chuffed with it. There you go, I'm chuffed. So that's the actual model part of it. But to go into something else, now for something completely different. In terms of books, I've seen the trend going around the community just in the past few weeks of books, novels, anything that helps you with the hobby. A lot of the books I actually have with me because a lot of them are back at university or they're in storage, that kind of thing. But I got this one in the post recently. It's a kind of West German military analysis of the Volksarmee. It's kind of the handbook style. It goes into all the kind of command structures and the history of the People's Army, propaganda, pictures, all kind of things. It's from 1980. So obviously it's quite ideologically biased in a way. It's the school of hatred isn't exactly neutral language. But a lot of the information about the People's Army is in German. And although I do have a kind of passing knowledge of German, I can get by in it, I'm not quite comfortable enough yet to start reading military sources. Yes, it's got coloured bits there, all the kind of ranks, and it's got a few pictures of all the weapons and tanks and stuff. You've got parades, that kind of thing. So it's a really interesting book. I'll actually read it and see what I can get out of it. Hopefully a fair bit, because it's one of the only English language sources that's available. But I'll report back on that as I get through with it. Anyway, that's the only book I've actually got that's really relevant towards the kind of trends. So sorry I couldn't do 3, I could do 1, but that'll have to do. That helped with my essay as well, talking about the Kampfgruppen, which is another kind of aspect of the East German army. But maybe these are talks for another day. I'd love to talk more about the history in another video. Actually put my history degree to some kind of use. But yeah, I'll report back on that, see what I find useful about it. I'm sure it'll be a good read. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this update. If you did stick to the end, I want you to go subscribe to Christopher Moody. Brilliant lad. And also, please leave a comment. Tell me how beautiful you think my work is. That'll be sarcasm. That'll be really nice. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.